You know, you become real humbled when you have when your name, your reputation, and the company you're building precedes your actual presence. It's a really humbling experience, but I am not that yet, nowhere near that. So this is Cam Calloway from Horns and Halos, the founder of Horns and Halo Films. And I usually don't like being in front of a camera, but it is what it is now. I'm kind of used to it. I leave that, like I said, I leave that to the actors. But and that wasn't a plug, but anyway. A couple of things I've learned with being in the independent film circuit, also just in life, and having and developing a business mind frame. I remember, I'm not going to say how old I am, but a very long time ago, I remember my mother used to say something that still sticks with me to this day. She would say, you have 12 hours to get your shit together and 12 hours to keep it together. That's true, and that stuck with me. But as you get older, you get into the work field, you have significant others, wives, families, kids, all of this other stuff, and then your you time is broken up into thirds. So you have your 8 hours of rest, your 8 hours of work, and then your 8 hours of whatever that you time is. Sometimes one transcends into the other. So instead of getting 8 hours of sleep, you may get 9 hours of sleep, or working your 9 to 5 instead of doing your 8 hours, you may have to do 9, 10, 11. Same thing with their recreation. The important part, especially if you have a business mind frame and building a business, whether it's, I don't like the term small business or little business, because people use it as a sarcasm, like, how's your little business going? I'm like, how's your little life going? That's rule number one. I want to talk about rules. Never let anyone downplay your goals. You don't downplay your goals. I mean, it takes a brick by brick by brick to build a pyramid. So don't let no one sell you short, or don't believe or invest in that in your brain. That's a bad mental infection that'll cause you to see barriers and turn around. So going back to that third portion of time, if you have a business mind frame of trying to build a business, no matter what it is, I know people that have planting businesses, people that have printing businesses, people that do music, people that do film. Everybody has their niche in life, and I definitely applaud those people for stepping out on that limb, because that's not easy. The first thing is stick to the script. Now that is a plug. This is the Horns and Halos Elite Gear. Brian and I, the exec producer, will be releasing that whenever we feel like it, when the time business mind is right. But like I said, I want to talk about some of these rules that I've learned to adapt and adopt into what I'm doing. Like I said, first rule is stick to the script. That's a bland but also a straight statement. Always stay focused on what you're doing. You're gonna have things that kind of get in the way and whatnot, but if you let people or obstacles or anything kind of stagnate you, imagine running. If you trip over a couple of pebbles and rocks, if you keep on tripping enough, you're gonna tire down, you're gonna fall, but don't go back. I got a good friend of mine. I used to sit in this bar and I used to work on scripts. I'm gonna get to that part, but he told me, you didn't come this far just to get this far. That's something that, like I said, to this day sticks in my head. I wish I could turn this camera around. I almost want to do, you know what, I'm gonna do that so you can actually see these dry erase boards I got just sitting around. And of course, like, you know, for it's not a plug for the film, but it's just there for just to keep in mind what I'm doing and everything, like, so I can keep on track. So that was a lot of work. So have a battle plan. Actually, just don't say you got it in your head. Script it down. If you got your dry erase boards, post-it notes, notebooks, whatever you have to do to implement those plans, because those plans are goals. If you don't do shit with them, they're only wishes. It's like blowing out the candles on a cake. It's just a wish until you commit to action. A couple of these rules are going to be hard for people to accept, but the quicker you accept them, the better off you'll be. Rule number 2, when you are on this path, especially on an independent level, no matter what it is, I have an ask one time rule. Now what that means is, of course, we're building something. It takes time to get things together, whether it's camera gear or, like I said, planning things out or script writing. Oh my goodness, speaking of scripts, these are all movie scripts. These are all movie scripts that I've written. So you have to take time. You have to, there's 4 or 5 of them over there. But you have to commit time to what you're doing. If you don't, you can say that you're something, but until you start to implement it, sorry, you're not that. It's cold, but it's fair. So going back to this one ask rule, during the course of this, I've come across a lot of people, and I'm humbled for people that I've networked with and people that I haven't. The one ask rule theory to me is you ask someone one time in the form of a proposal to whether work with you with something, work with you on a project or whatever, anything, and always speak your full transparent intentions with people so they know what you're doing, why you're doing it. So if you like work that this person does or whatever, they have the option to say yay or nay. Anything beyond that, you're begging. So you ask one time. After that, just keep it moving. I mean, it's 8 billion people in this world, I think. I haven't even checked. But it's many people with many talents that you can barter, use, trade services to get what you all want and need done. Second rule is time. You have to commit time to what you're doing. I showed those scripts for a reason. That shit didn't, ain't no other way to say it, the shit didn't just materialize out of my brain onto paper. That's tens of, it's a lot of hours to put that together. And with that, it's just not Jack and Jill went up the hill or Dr. Seuss stories or nothing like that. When you're a screenwriter, you have to make something that's compelling, interesting, marketable. You can promote it. If there's a sequel, I mean, you have to think of all these things. But when you're in the depths of screenwriting, it's almost like I learned this from Jordan Peele. Don't know him personally, but horror and comedy kind of go neck and neck when it comes down to audiences. Same thing with any film, actually. When you're telling a story, imagine telling somebody a joke. The ultimate thing is you're setting them up for that punchline. So in comedy or horror, it's the same thing. You take people down this rabbit hole, you get them invested in it, and then you hit them with these different punchlines or these different scenarios that keep them more and more compelled to keep them further down. So stay focused on what you're doing. You can't think like squirrel just while you're in the course of writing, because you'll never get shit finished. Rule number 3. Have a business mind plan. You just can't. I started out like this, so I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I started out just writing screenplays, and I was thinking that maybe somebody will read this and they'll appreciate my work, and then I can get a manager or an agent and everything will be gravy and I'll be on. Nope. It's nothing fucking like that. Not at all. People don't want to. For example, I wrote a sequel to 7. Yeah. I've been trying to pitch this for 2 years. I don't have Morgan Freeman or Brad Pitt on standby to fucking make this happen. But that's just for example. You have to have some type of goal, some type of end game to what you're doing. So staying focused to it. Also, which brings me into a subdivision of that, is the business side of it. It's more to just having a logo or some visual thing that your business is recognized by. If you're independent, you got to do the whole LLC thing. You have to, goodness, actually I'm taking this out because it's kind of hot. So you have to do your LLC. You have to build a website, which is what I was doing yesterday. If you're a film director or producer or anything like that, you have to worry about casts and everything like that, locations. It's not easy. I've talked to people over the years, and even recently I have a person that thinks it's just as easy as grabbing a camera and then going out somewhere. That's a waste of time. I am currently a student at YouTube University, and all of you can be a scholar of that. I mean, it's constantly learning. Basically, I'm saying I've spent, and it's embarrassing, but it's not spent hundreds of hours learning different things in regards to filming, lighting, camera settings, that's ISOs, aperture and shutter speed, things like that. The rule of thirds, audio. Is so many facets to filmmaking that a lot of people don't think about, but your ultimate goal is to keep audiences captured in their chair, for chair, seat, home, theater, wherever it is, for the duration of your film, from the vanity credits to the end credits. That's not an easy task, especially in this world where everything is continually changing. You have to be on the cutting edge of creativity to compete. Which brings me to the fourth thing, competition. I used to look at different sites, whether it's on Facebook or whatever, like Film Connected, looking at different independent artists, filmmakers, screenwriters, and there's a thing called imposter syndrome. I would say look it up, I'll explain it to you. If you have a particular craft and you're deeply vested in it, but you don't feel like you are at the level of success that you would consider success in juxtaposition to other people, then you feel like you're an imposter. You feel like a poser, like a person that says they can sing until they get in front of a mic. Don't let your self-doubt diminish your self-worth. That's one of the hardest parts about this, because of course people advance at different levels and everything, but you can't let where you are not stop you from where you're going. If that makes sense. That's kind of profound. We'll rewind this later on and listen to that shit. But if you get to a certain, trust me, there's times that I sit here within those 8 hours, sometimes 9, 10, 11, where I'm supposed to be rested. I'm sitting here and these screens are just like this. There's no activity going on because I'm trying to orchestrate things in my mind. I come in with the intention to create, but sometimes, and just sitting sometimes is fine. But don't stop what you're doing. That's the worst thing. I heard a quote. I'm trying to remember what it says. It says, if you think that failing is bad. Basically, it was saying, if you quit, it's worse than not doing it at all, because at least you're trying. I can't remember. I'll probably post it in the comments on this later on. So never let where you are stop you from where you need to go. There's times, like I said, I come in here and I just sit because I just can't come up. Don't force anything. Don't ever. Most things should come, and it's not always easy, but if something comes natural, like for example, telling a story, creating a screenplay, if it comes natural, write it down, plan it out, let it grow from there. If you have what they call writer's block, that's totally fine. You know what I used to do? I used to, not here, but I always carried a pen on me. I used to write different ideas in my hand and on my arms and stuff like that if I didn't have paper. That's a true story. Ask anybody that really knows me. I would have shit written in my hand because stuff would hit me on the fly. The bad thing is if you sweat, this shit is gone. It's gone. I'm gonna take pictures of it or what have you. But those are my rules for continuing this. I mean, it's not a battle plan for success, but if you keep on those, I have another rule. I used to feel like this when I used to do music. I was the type back then, I had my own CDs pressed up. Well, I had it pressed up through a printing manufacturer. It was a CD Baby, and locally it was, goodness, I can't remember the name. It's Super Duper or something like that. It was, they printed it. I was like actually hustling actual CDs. One major rule with this, you cannot invest your feelings into this in the aspect of getting people that's going to be interested in what you're doing in regards to friends and family. If friends and family don't support you, whether they don't have the finances for it or because they know who you are, and don't get callous to that. Don't turn your back on those people. You're writing and you're creating shit for the world. You're not just doing it for this little box that you're in. You're trying to expand out. I've seen, and I've done this before. I used to get, when I first started doing music, not this now, I used to get kind of bitter, like my own family or my own friends and my blood ain't gonna cop. That's bullshit. You gotta expand out. I mean, if you think, what did James Brown, shit, Ray Charles said, if you think pennies, you get pennies. If you think dollars, there you have it. So I'm gonna end this, but stick to the script, have a battle plan, stay focused on it. You are your own worst enemy when it comes down to walking that path. Just don't stop. Horns and halos.